everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jacqueline, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about my eating disorder and kind of the very beginning of my journey. Because I definitely feel like getting to 500 pounds, there was definitely an eating disorder going on that I didn't realize at the time. But I kind of just wanted to talk about the very beginning. So to kind of talk about where I was mentally in the beginning, what I was struggling with, what I was dealing with, and kind of make this a little series of overcoming my eating disorder, of now realizing I've probably been dealing with one kind of this whole time. So instead of making it one super long video of the past, in the middle, and now, I'm just going to focus on the past in this video and kind of the steps I took mentally to kind of get myself in the right mindset so I can lose all of that weight. So like I said, I struggled with overeating. I was always overweight as a child. I was always the bigger kid. And I was always labeled as the shy fat girl. And I feel like because I was always overweight or different than everyone else, it did make me a little bit more reserved, a little more shy. And, you know, having people kind of label you as that, it kind of made me take on that role. And for a long time, I always felt like I was the shy fat girl. So that's kind of the role I took on, and that's kind of how I perceived myself. And that's kind of, I feel like, what I put out to the world, because I didn't have the confidence to say anything differently. I didn't, you know, have that self-esteem or the love for myself to kind of be like, no, I'm so much more than that. Because every time I went out, or I was at school, or I was with my friends or my peers, that's kind of the role I took on. So that's just kind of who I became. And it kept getting worse, you know, my eating. I feel like I would try to like go on little diets, but then I would always gain the weight back plus some. And I just kind of thought, this is my life. This is just how I'm meant to be, is overweight, and I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it. It's fine. You know, deep down inside, you know, was I truly happy? Was I okay with my weight or taking on this role as the shy fat girl? Like, absolutely not. Like, deep down inside, it killed me that that was not only my label, but that's what others perceived me as, and that's kind of what I put out. I didn't put out anything differently for people to think anything differently about it. And the longer the years went on of having this label, the harder it was to kind of get out of that role, or to kind of come out and be someone else, to let your true self come out, because I didn't even know who I was. And so, you know, I kept turning to food. I was definitely an emotional eater. I used food when I was really suffering inside to calm me down, to make me happy, to, you know, anything. When I was upset, I turned to food. When I was having a bad day, I turned to food. And it was just this constant cycle of this like overeating where I felt like I could not control it. And if you've never experienced anything like this, it's really hard to explain, or you'll think, why don't you just stop eating? And I know that's one of the #1 comments I get when I talk or share that I was 500 pounds. It's like, well, why don't you just stop eating? And I feel like unless you've been through it, you don't know how difficult it is to just stop. Because obviously, if I could have, I would have just stopped eating and lost weight, and it would have all been better. But there's a reason that obesity is called a disease, which I know is a whole nother topic. People have a bunch of different opinions or views on that. But for me, I do feel like when you become morbidly obese, it is a disease, because I definitely could not control it. And, you know, even taking on that role of I'm just the shy fat girl and I'm happy with it and I'm accepting it, you know, and I tried to put out to the world, I was still happy and laughing and positive all the time. But deep down inside, that wasn't the case. But I just didn't know how to fix it, and I feel like I wasn't ready to fix it. And mentally, there was just so much going on in my brain of, you know, thinking about food, eating food, obsessing about food, being upset because I was eating so much food, being upset that I couldn't lose weight, being upset that I was a shy fat girl and I didn't want to lose weight. Like, mentally, there was so much going on that it was so hard to focus and sit down and pinpoint, you know what, I have an eating disorder and I can't stop eating, you know. And even saying that out loud, you know, might sound weird to people because you assume most of the time eating disorders are people who are anorexic or who don't eat or are bulimic. You don't think of an eating disorder as someone, you know, who's 500 pounds. Most people just consider that lazy, unmotivated, undisciplined, and why don't you just stop shoveling food into your face and go work out? You know, that's usually the stereotype that people who are overweight get. And for me, I could not control it. It was like an addiction, just like drugs or alcohol. You know, that was my addiction, was food. And it got so bad that I found myself over 500 pounds. And, you know, people can come at it and say, you know, why didn't people stop you? Why didn't I stop myself before I got there? And that's why it's so important that it's like I don't feel like I have to justify it, but I feel like so many people don't understand, like, I couldn't help it. Like, obviously, if I could have helped it, I would have gotten myself to 500 pounds. It's not just as easy as, you know, my mom coming to me and saying, hey, you need to lose weight, you're gonna lose weight. And it didn't mean that nobody loved me around me because they let me do this. I did it to myself. It was something that I couldn't control. I take 100,000% responsibility for it, that it was me and my choices and my decisions that got me there. Now, those choices and decisions that got me there, even though they were all on me, it was something that I could not control. So to actually take the step to lose weight was actually a very, like, a mental step. Like, I had to be okay mentally to be able to say, yes, I want to make the changes, and yes, I want to take that first step. It's not just as easy as, well, stop eating and go work out. You know, there's so much more to weight loss than that. I mentally had to say, I'm not okay, I'm not happy, I'm not healthy, and I need to do something about it. It was never about, well, you need to help me do this, you let me do this, and putting the blame on others. I had to really look in the mirror and say, I did this, and I'm the only one who's going to be able to fix this. And I feel like that was a huge moment because I had to feel ready. I couldn't do it because, like I said, my mom told me, my sister told me, Kevin, my fiance, told me. Like, I couldn't do it for anyone else for me to be successful. I had to do it when I was ready because I wanted to. And I think that's the number one thing that I tell people is you have to do what's best for you. You can't want to lose weight so this person likes you or because that person told you to, or you really have to do it for yourself. And to be successful and to make it a lifelong change like I have in my life, it has to come from within and it has to come from when you're ready. And so mentally, I finally got to that place where I was ready. And that's kind of where my journey began, was, you know, feeling like I was ready and taking that first step. I do have to say that I wish my doctor or someone would have suggested that I would have started talking to someone like a therapist, a counselor, an eating disorder specialist, to kind of figure out what was going on in my life or why I got myself to 500 pounds, and to kind of mentally help me along my journey to kind of figure out those patterns and to figure out years ago that I was a binge eater or that I was an emotional eater, or, you know, and had some sort of support mentally while I was going through it. So that's why I feel like it's so important to let you guys know that if you want to start a weight loss journey or a healthy living journey or a self-love journey, whatever it is, make sure you're taking care of the mental health side too. Because I think that gets so lost and confused sometimes, and it gets put on the back burner to, especially weight loss, where you just think it's physical, you just have to lose weight to get the weight off. But it doesn't, people don't talk enough about the mental side. Why did you get yourself to that weight? Why did I get to 500 pounds? How can I prevent myself from getting to 500 pounds again? And I feel like along my journey, I kind of figured it out. But that's why I kind of feel like I'm sitting here right now and I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. And I'm still fighting with a binge eating disorder and an emotional eater, or, you know, those different traits or things that were happening back then are kind of resurfacing now because I didn't fully deal with it because I didn't know about it. You know, at the time I didn't know I had an eating problem or an eating disorder. So I think it's very important for any of you watching who may be struggling with wanting to go through a big change is to get that help in the very beginning, because I think that definitely would have helped me when I first started. And someone who can help give you like different coping mechanisms, like what you can do instead of turning to food. So if you feel like, you know, you're really upset about something and you really just feel like binging out on nachos, what are other tactics or what are other things you can do to help overcome that feeling, kind of help replace those eating urges. And I feel like that's kind of what I'm dealing with now. But I feel like if I did that in the very beginning, it definitely would have made my journey a lot easier. And I don't want you to think by asking for that help or getting that help or admitting you need to talk to someone makes you weak. It definitely does not. It actually makes you so strong because you're putting yourself first. You're putting yourself as an importance of, I want to get better. I want to do what's best for me. I want to do everything I can to live a healthy and happy life. And in order to live a healthy and happy life, it starts in your head. It starts mentally with believing in yourself, believing you are capable of taking care of yourself, knowing you are strong enough to take care of yourself, and knowing whatever you're going through, you can overcome it. And that all starts in your head, because the minute you believe you can't do something, you're not going to be able to do it. So I know a lot of you have been asking, like, well, when you first started your journey, how did you get the help, or how did you just start losing weight? And I feel like for me, I was so fortunate that I had such a support system around me, and I was so determined and ready to do it that I kind of just found a program that worked for me, and I felt like I was off. I was off and running, and the weight was flying off, and I started feeling more confident in myself. And that's kind of just how my journey started. Is it literally took a moment of my lowest moment ever, which I'll quickly share if you don't know. I was at Disneyland, my favorite place in the whole entire world, and I was riding around in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk. I wasn't going on rides because I wasn't fitting. I couldn't fit. And I had people always pointing and laughing and making fun and making comments of this fat girl in a wheelchair, and I felt ashamed of myself. I felt ashamed that I couldn't walk, I couldn't move, and I couldn't experience life. And here I was in the happiest place on earth, my literally my favorite place in the entire world, and I was stuck in a wheelchair because I couldn't move. And I went to get on a ride because I thought I would fit on that ride, and I actually didn't even make it on the ride because I got stuck going through a turnstile to even get on the ride. And that was my breaking point. That was my low moment. And I kind of laughed it off like I did. Like, oh yeah, I'm the shy fat girl, haha, I got stuck. Like, oh well, I don't care. Kind of got myself out. And then I went to the bathroom and bawled my eyes out. And at that moment, I looked in the mirror and I said, we need to change. And I feel like that was a huge moment for me, and it took that moment for me to just start my whole journey. And so I think that's kind of how I started, was I felt ready inside myself to make those changes. It wasn't for anyone else. It wasn't to get ready for prom. It wasn't for a date. It wasn't to, you know, be skinnier than my friend, or because my friends were losing weight, or because someone else told me to lose weight, or that I was fat or ugly or whatever it was. I did it for myself. And I was tired of being the shy fat girl. And even though I didn't really know who I was, I knew that that wasn't me. And so I was ready to not only lose weight, but figure out who I was. And that's kind of the beginning of my journey. And I'll definitely share more. Like, I could do a part 2 of this, like during the middle, like, of my journey, you know, and then now what I'm doing. But I just kind of wanted to share the beginning part, or why I started, how I started, and what made me decide to make those changes, because losing over 300 pounds is a lot, and it took a lot. So I have lots of stories to share with you guys, but like always, if you have any questions, please leave them down below. If you have video topics or different things you would like me to talk about, let me know, because I really do genuinely want to help you guys, because I know how cliche this sounds, but if I could do it, you can do it. And if I can overcome all of these obstacles in my life, I know you can too. So thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. It would really mean a lot to me, so I can keep making these videos for you and sharing everything that I've gone through to hopefully at least help one of you out there. So thank you so much for watching, and I will definitely talk to you guys very, very soon. Bye!